In this video, we're going to talk about 7 life-changing books that you need to read this year. We live in such a special time right now that we're able to capitalize on other people's knowledge that took them decades to build, sometimes their entire life missions. I think this is an amazing opportunity and you would be stupid to let it go. Books allow you to take a shortcut through the learning curve that would otherwise take you years or even decades to get through. If reading isn't a habit for you, I'd recommend that you start now and you can use some of these books as suggestions. As a doctor and pro men's physique athlete, I'm all about helping you achieve health, wealth, and happiness, and these books are going to help you achieve those. The first book that we're going to talk about on this list is Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. When you think about it, everything in life involves persuasion to some extent. Whether you're trying to get your boss to give you a raise, you're trying to get your dream girl to go out on a date with you, or even if you're just trying to get your friends to watch a movie. I personally think that it's essential that everyone studies persuasion psychology at some point. Understanding this stuff is going to help you with your day-to-day interactions, and it will also help you to avoid being manipulated. In the book, Cialdini talks about some of the major principles in what gets someone to agree to do something. A couple of interesting ideas from the book. The principle of reciprocity is one that he talks about, and that is the idea that people are more likely to do something for you once you've done something for them. The key to this principle is that the two things don't necessarily have to be equal in value. One example he gives is how the Hare Krishna will give people a flower as they walk by, and then try to get them to give a donation. When people get the flower, even though it's much less in value than the donation that they're about to give, they're much more likely to give money, and it ends up being a big win for the solicitor. Another concept from the book, social proof. This is the idea that people are more easily persuaded to do something that they see other people doing. As humans, we are very much influenced by the actions of others. As examples, you're much more likely to buy clothes from brands that you see lots of other people wearing, and you're more likely to go to that restaurant with a massive number of 5-star reviews on Google, rather than one rated with 1 star. Another interesting idea is the contrast principle. And this basically states that the contrast between items can make you view one a lot differently. For example, after people have just decided to buy a car, the car dealership will immediately push some smaller items. Things like accessories for inside your car or additional premium plan features. This is really smart because after you make that big purchase, say you spent $30,000 on a car, an additional purchase for a couple $100 doesn't seem like much, and you're a lot more likely to agree. Again, one of the big reasons I want you to read about persuasional psychology isn't necessarily that you're going to be using sales tactics, but it will allow you to see them when they're being used on you, and you won't be tricked. Next up is Flow: The Psychology of Optimal Experience by Mihaly C. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name because I'm going to get it wrong. This is an unexpected one on the list that I read this year, but I really liked. In this book, they talk about interviewing a bunch of people and figuring out what components of an activity makes it optimal. This book talks about what creates a flow state. The flow state is that feeling when you're in the zone and you're so immersed in an activity that you completely lose track of time. A good example, think about what activities do that for you. You'll probably name something like one of your hobbies, something that you do in your leisure time. But if you apply these principles correctly, you can actually make a lot of everyday experiences more enjoyable. Even something like work can become a flow state for some people. A few features of activities that get you in a flow state are, first of all, activities that have a clear goal. That is, you have a specific idea of what you're trying to accomplish. This gives you something to work towards to help you stay focused, and it also helps you to track progress. Next, having immediate feedback. When you have instant feedback, you know when you're getting better, and it really helps you stay engaged with the task. Another key component of flow is having a balance between challenge and skill. If something's too difficult, you're gonna get discouraged, and if something's too easy, you're gonna get bored. A perfect example of an activity that is designed to get you into the flow state is video games. Video game creators go to great lengths to engineer a product that will keep you in the flow state for hours on end. You have clear goals for what you're trying to accomplish. Say Super Mario is trying to save Princess Peach. You have immediate feedback. You get the game over screen and the annoying sounds when Super Mario falls in the hole. And you have a balance between challenge and skill. As you go through each level in Super Mario Bros., the levels in Mario gradually get more difficult. So as you get better at the game, the level of challenge increases to match it. I want you to think about how you can apply these principles to your work or other daily activities that you typically don't enjoy that much. I like to think about it as gamifying life. If you can modify an activity so that it helps you get into a flow state, you can actually end up really enjoying life more. Third book on this list, Atomic Habits by James Clear, is an awesome book that everyone watching this needs to read. Understanding habit formation, learning how to create good ones and replace bad ones is going to be critical for your success. And having the right habits applied over decades will allow you to stand out astronomically from your peers. In the book, James Clear talks about the habit loop. This is how habits are formed and reinforced. Habits consist of a cue, craving, response, and reward. The cue is what triggers your mind to think about doing that habit. Then you have a craving or a feeling of desire to do that habit. The response is what you actually do, and the reward is the positive feeling you get after doing it. An example is biting your nails. A lot of people will bite their nails because they feel nervous or anxious. The feeling of being nervous or anxious is the cue, which then triggers them to crave biting their nails. They bite their nails and then they feel a little bit more comforted. The cool thing is that you can actually replace bad habits with good ones when you understand how this loop works, because you can interrupt the loop and replace one part of it with another action. So for example, if you wanted to replace biting your nails, you could do so with a stress ball or deep breathing. Say something like a box breathing technique. The key is choosing something else that's healthier but also still gives you that same sort of reward. So when you practice mindfulness or that box breathing, you're still gonna get that feeling of being more relaxed. There are 4 laws of behavior change that he talks about in the book. First one, make it obvious. So if you want to start a new habit, you need to have it visible so that you can trigger yourself to think about it. For example, putting fruit on the counter where it's very visible and you'll think about it, and hiding your chips in the cupboard. Second law is that you need to make it attractive, so the habit needs to become more appealing. Third is to make it easy. This one's key. You want to reduce friction in terms of getting to do that activity, and really focus on just making it easy to get started. For example, I recommend that beginners choose a gym that's on their way home from work. If you can just stop at the gym on your way home and not have to go out of your way, you're a lot more likely to actually engage in your workout and at least get started on it. And once you get started, you're a lot more likely to finish that workout. If your gym is a 45-minute drive away, you're a lot less likely to pack your car and go out for a drive just for your gym session. Lastly, make it satisfying. You want to make sure that there is some sort of immediate reward related to that habit so that you can reinforce the habit loop that we just talked about. Next book on the list, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, is a book that teaches you how to be present. This is such a critical skill set to acquire, especially nowadays. I feel that everyone is so plugged in. They're scrolling through their phones, they're planning for the future, or they're dwelling in the past. But as Eckhart Tolle talks about, life happens in the present moment. You are always in the now. The future is ultimately an illusion, and only the present moment is truly real. He talks about a few practical techniques that you can apply to help yourself be more present. The power of awareness is one. The goal here is to become aware of your thoughts and feelings without identifying with them. You can think of this as being a neutral observer up on the wall, just looking down at yourself and how you're feeling. The idea is that you're observing your thoughts without judging them. You'll notice that this is a key tenet in mindfulness and meditation. And ultimately, mindfulness and meditation practices are techniques to help you to become more present. Acceptance and surrender is another core principle in the book. Here he talks about embracing the present moment regardless of what's happening. This is critical for inner peace. When I was prepping for WNBF World Championships in men's physique, I went through some of the greatest suffering of my life. I remember one of the worst parts of the prep was at the very end, the last week. I had no added carbs left in my diet, so I was really just eating lean protein and vegetables, and I had to go for an hour cardio session. I decided to go for a walk, and I took the long way around our seawall in Vancouver. This was in November, and out of the blue, it just started pouring. I was halfway through my journey and I still had to walk all the way back to get to my car. During this prep though, I decided that I was just going to accept my suffering. When I had this mindset, I found that even the hardest moments weren't really that bad. And a weird thing happened. I actually felt happy. Ironically, even though I felt the worst physically during prep, those were also some of the happiest times for me. I was constantly starving, I was tired from the gym, I had trouble focusing, and I would be waking up every hour or two because I was hungry and I still wouldn't be allowed to eat. But by allowing myself to accept the scenario for what was happening, I felt at peace, and it allowed me to still be happy. Understanding how to connect with the present is going to allow yourself to be happier. It's also going to help you to perform better at work because you'll have more mental clarity and you'll function better in your social relationships. Book number 5 on our list of life-changing books that you need to read. The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz is a classic in motivational reading. This was one of those books that just left me feeling pumped and excited every time I finished a reading session. In the book, he talks about how it's critical for you to set high goals for yourself in order to be successful. Your goals need to scare you a little bit, and that's what really pushes you to max out your full potential. In my first men's physique competition, I placed last. I remember showing up to that show and seeing the pro card winners being awarded swords and telling myself that one day I was gonna win one. Even though winning a pro card in men's physique seemed far away at the time, I aimed straight at the top and eventually I got there. Look at the best in the world at what you want to do and ask yourself, why can't you be like them? In the book, Schwartz talks about how you need to believe in yourself. If you have confidence in yourself that you're going to be able to achieve this and that you're going to be able to do what it takes, you're a lot more likely to stick to the plan and actually succeed. He also talks about how it's critical for you to overcome fear. Fear of failure or fear of criticism are demons that hold a lot of people back. You need to reframe your mind to think more positively. Every time you have a setback, just think about it as a learning experience. Think to yourself that every failure is a stepping stone to get you where you want to go. Our sixth book on the list of must-read books is The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. Bronnie Ware is a palliative care nurse. A palliative care nurse is a nurse who specializes in helping people who are dying. In the book, she talks about the biggest regrets that people had when they were at the end. I think this is such a powerful book because we only get one life. And I think it would be so sad for you to be lying on your deathbed one day and having major regrets. Here are a couple of them. The first one is, I wish I had the courage to live a life that was true to myself and not the one others expected of me. I think so many people end up living their lives for other people, whether it's their parents, their friends, or societal expectations. Let's take Johnny as an example, who was told by his parents that he had to go to school. When he was in school, he was told by his professors that he should become an accountant, even though he didn't really like it. After dating Jenny for 2 years, he ends up marrying her, even though he isn't that into her, because that's what he was supposed to do. You need to start living authentically now. What you will find is that you really won't get the backlash that you're worried about when you pursue your dreams and go after what you want. A lot of people will actually respect you for having that backbone and having that courage, as the author talks about. Another one of the top 5 regrets. I wish I had expressed my feelings more openly. A lot of people go throughout their lives suppressing their emotions and not communicating openly and honestly. Let's fast forward our sad story of Johnny, who's been hating his life as an accountant for 30 years and has this lukewarm marriage with Jenny. Jenny makes the worst meatloaf that he's ever tasted in his life, but every time she asks him, how does it taste? He replies, it tastes great, honey, because he doesn't want to offend her. One day, Johnny has a surprise heart attack, and as he's dying in his hospital bed, he opens up with the truth to Jenny and tells her, I never really liked your meatloaf anyways. And Jenny's completely shocked because she thought he'd liked it all along. Anyways, don't be like Johnny. You don't want the 30 years and the lackluster relationship with terrible meatloaf. For the record, I actually like meatloaf when it's good. Mindset by Carol Dweck is a book you have to read if you're really serious about self-improvement. Carol Dweck is a psychology professor at Stanford, and a key focus of the book talks about the difference between fixed and growth mindsets. People who have a fixed mindset believe that their abilities and their characteristics cannot be changed. For example, let's take Nicholas, who's in grade 4 math. He slips up on a couple tests and his teacher tells him that he's terrible at math. For the rest of his life, Johnny never tries hard at math and he thinks that he's intrinsically bad at math. But the underlying truth in his case was that he had just never truly applied himself and he hadn't found the right resources and teachers. People with a fixed mindset don't believe that they can actually change their intrinsic selves. The flip side of this is the growth mindset. People with a true growth mindset believe that they can change all aspects of their lives. This comes through hard work and learning. A good example of this is your personality. A lot of people think that their personality is fixed, and they never end up changing aspects of their personality. Say they're abrasive and rude, or just not fun to hang out with, or not interesting to talk to. A lot of aspects of your personality can actually be changed to a large degree, and you can end up making your life a lot better if you understand this and work towards it. There's a reason I'm giving you this list of books now. I want to introduce you to some of these concepts early. When you understand the growth mindset, when you learn to think big, and when you can engineer your everyday life to become more of a flow state, and when you can take your everyday activities and get yourself into a flow state doing them, you're gonna lay the groundwork to really build momentum, and your path towards success is gonna go up exponentially. What are the most life-changing books from your perspective? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you also like the comments that have books that you've read and enjoyed. I'm always looking for good book suggestions myself. Till next time, make sure you subscribe to the channel to transform your life. Watch this video next, and we'll see you next time.